ever think about dying? Barbie loudly asks her friends while partying at her dream house. The music screeches to a stop, and all eyes fixate on her in terror. Quickly realizing the awkwardness of her question, Barbie corrects herself, and everything returns to normal. But this seemingly innocent inquiry into mortality sets in motion an irreversible chain of events, unraveling a Pandora's box that becomes the catalyst for the central plot in the film Barbie. Or at least, that's what I thought. Personally, I think about dying every day, ever since my sole companion on this island met a tragic fate after stepping on a dangerous fish camouflaged as a rock upon the sea floor, known as a stonefish. After it stung him with poisonous venom, and without any medical supplies, he passed away on this very beach. Thoughts of death have been on my mind ever since, and I now remain ever vigilant against all possible wolves in sheep's clothing, which brings me to Barbie. When I first saw the trailers for this film, involving Barbie discovering the real world, I envisioned a similar film to Enchanted, a heartwarming and whimsical comedy exploring the contrast between fantasy and reality, where Barbie and Ken would collide with the realities and unpredictable nature of the modern world. But what begins as a fun fish-out-of-water tale soon devolves into an unexpected and prolonged feminist tirade about female oppression, resembling a relentless political lecture rather than a piece of escapist cinematic entertainment. The film seems to condemn men for all problems women face in modern society, focusing on tired gender tropes and one-dimensional caricatures, where every male character is depicted as either an idiot or oppressor, while the female characters are reduced to victims. So please join me as we open Barbie up from her cardboard box, undo her plastic ties, and submit her to a full examination as we find out what really lies beneath her colorful, flashy exterior. The film begins with a parody of Stanley Kubrick's 2001, where young girls playing with traditional baby dolls are interrupted by an enormous Barbie, evoking the monolith. And just as the monolith spurred the apes into developing weapons in 2001, Barbie's appearance propels the girls into violently destroying their dolls, symbolizing their rejection of traditional values of family and motherhood to embrace a consumerist self-centered lifestyle of superficiality and egocentric aspirations. We then morph into Barbie Land, a fantastical toy world filled with pink mansions and hyper-feminine aesthetics, where Barbie's shower lacks running water, her outfits are magically donned by standing before them, and food and drink are but thin air. Oh, and she can fly. In this idyllic world, feminine perfection ensures no problems exist, and the male Kens all assume subordinate positions while the Barbies lead. The Kens are depicted as foolish simpletons, motivated solely by pursuing Barbie's attention, and lacking meaningful societal roles. Meanwhile, the Barbies take on all jobs and leadership duties. We then transition to a lively party, where Barbie asks her existential question. Ken then tries to kiss Barbie, but she rejects him. Given the iconic status of Ken and Barbie's relationship, as portrayed in other toy-based films, such as Toy Story 3, I found this rejection rather jarring. Why isn't Barbie romantically interested in Ken? It's never explained. Furthermore, I also thought this contrast in their reactions inadvertently created a powerful character moment for Ken, positioning him as the underdog, yearning for Barbie's affection while grappling with her apparent indifference towards him. It reminded me of the child robot in AI, who craves his mother's love unconditionally despite her mistreatment. The next morning, Barbie awakens feeling imperfect, and mishaps ensue. 2. Opening up to her friends, she reveals her feet, which are usually stuck in high heel form, have fallen flat. Her friends then tell her she is malfunctioning, implying not only that the Barbies are robots, but that they're aware they're robots. Barbie then visits Weird Barbie, where she learns her emotions are influenced by her owner in the real world playing with her. When her owner feels sadness, it transfers to Barbie, and to resolve this, Barbie must journey to the real world and help her human counterpart. Yet this raises more questions. Shouldn't this be a constant problem in Barbie Land if all the Barbies are simply avatars that represent what happens to their real-life dolls? And didn't the film just establish that the Barbies are robots, but now they're also avatars that represent dolls in the real world? How do these two conflicting states harmonize with each other? It's never explained. We then have a parody of The Matrix, where Barbie must select between a high heel representing blissful ignorance or a flat sandal emblematic of embracing the harsh truth. Barbie must either align with feminism by picking the sandal or oppose it via the heel. There is no other choice. Ken decides to join Barbie in the real world, and we transition from Barbie Land to Venice Beach, California. And this is the point where the film really loses its charm, as the concept of Barbie and Ken being toys, robots, avatars, or whatever the hell they're supposed to be, is completely dropped when they enter the real world, as they are completely indistinguishable from humans. Barbie then expresses feeling threatened by the men around her, who all stare, whistle, and catcall her before a man suddenly slaps her bottom. Barbie defends herself and is subsequently arrested before being mistreated again by male police officers. I also found this moment rather jarring, as I was expecting the one-dimensional caricatures would have been confined to Barbie's fantasy land, while the real world would have contained nuanced characters who would expose Barbie to the unfair matriarchal society she inhabits. Yet instead, the real world contains stereotypes that are just as one-dimensional as those seen in Barbie Land. Ken, however, is intrigued by the apparent male dominance in this new world, and he believes that merely being a man will grant him more power and influence here. However, he soon discovers that there are limitations and controls in place to prevent him from doing as he pleases, as he realizes that jobs require experience, qualifications, and skills. Feeling thwarted, Ken declares his intent to start the patriarchy afresh and returns to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, Barbie locates the human girl she believes owns her, but this young teen unleashes biting critique. She condemns Barbie for perpetuating unrealistic beauty standards, normalizing excessive consumerism, and unraveling feminist progress, reducing girls' self-worth through symbolizing oppression. Barbie attempts reconciliation, insisting she wants to spread joy, but the girl firmly rejects her overtures, asserting she was happier before Barbie's presence, and calls her a fascist. Not exactly the kind of themes I was expecting to encounter in a film about a child's toy made for 5-year-olds. Meanwhile, the FBI and the company who own Barbie, Mattel, become aware of Barbie's presence and urgently seek to locate her. Why does her real-world presence pose a threat? It's never explained. Barbie is then taken to the Mattel headquarters, where she finds an all-male executive team who try to force her into a box. Why? It's never explained. Barbie escapes captivity and discovers the Mattel CEO's secretary also happens to be her owner, who also happens to be the mother of the girl from the school. What a bloody coincidence! The mother reveals she found comfort playing with her daughter's Barbie amidst depression, projecting her insecurities about imperfection onto the doll. Visualizing Barbie as likewise flawed and unhappy allowed her cathartic escape. Seeking refuge from Mattel, the mother, daughter, and Barbie escape back to Barbie Land, while Mattel's all-male executives pursue them, citing apocalyptic stakes if Barbie Land is altered. Why? Well, it's never explained. Returning home, Barbie finds Barbie Land transformed. The once empowered Barbies now serve beer in revealing outfits, discovering Ken has established male dominance there, all in the space of a single afternoon. Barbie then discovers her dream house transformed into a man cave of sports paraphernalia. Ken declares he merely enlightened Barbieland about the patriarchy, which caused the pre-existing matriarchy in Barbieland to collapse. Barbie gives up and lies on the floor, and the mother and daughter abandon her. Weird Barbie then rescues her and brings her back to her house, which has become a refuge for Barbie misfits. These outcast dolls then act to rehabilitate the brainwashed Barbies who have forgotten their past lives. The mother and daughter return, and the mother launches into a long speech about how difficult life is being a woman, which lifts the haze of Ken's conditioning from the brainwashed Barbies. The Barbies then realize exposing the patriarchal contradictions diffuses their power. But to reclaim Barbieland, the Barbies must first understand the Ken's psyche. Their proposed strategy involves weaponizing feminine stereotypes, feigning helplessness to lower the Ken's guard before seizing control. Examples include asking for tech help while acting confused, praising their mansplaining, and requesting sports tutoring. They advise rejecting advances without bruising egos. Be terrible at money, pretend you love their guitar playing, then take it all away. The Barbies then trick the Kens into fighting each other, and while they are distracted, the Barbies regain control and restore autonomy back to the way things appeared at the start of the film. Barbie apologizes for taking Ken for granted, but maintains romantic distance. Weird Barbie is offered a promotion by President Barbie, while the Ken's promotions are denied, prompting the narrator to cynically declare that one day the Kens may hold as much power as women do in the real world. The Mattel CEO suddenly reappears after disappearing from the film and declares Barbie loves Ken, but Barbie refutes him. Then, Barbie's real-life inventor suddenly appears and explains Barbie represents escapism from the discomfort of being human. Barbie then expresses wanting to become human herself, despite the film never previously exploring this desire, and she is somehow turned human, raising more unanswered questions. The film then ends with Barbie, now a human in the real world, visiting her gynecologist, where the punchline implies that she finally has a real vagina. Wow! What a total shipwreck! I went into this film expecting a light-hearted adventure about a child's toy, not a heavy-handed feminist manifesto. I have to declare that Barbie is one of the most overtly political films I've ever seen, sacrificing entertainment for relentless feminist indoctrination. The ideology presented in this film supersedes any artistry or audience enjoyment, reducing Barbie to a puppet for partisan lecturing. The film's feminist imperatives lead to reductive depictions of men as useless buffoons or malicious patriarchs, while presenting women as both superior and victimized. This muddled messaging is misguided at best, harmful at worst. While claiming to empower women, it relies on reductive stereotypes that undermine meaningful progress. More concerning is the implication that feminism means turning the tables of injustice rather than transcending tribalism. When the Barbies deny equal rights to the Kens, it undermines notions of fairness and perpetuates a cycle of retaliation. True progress involves rising above a perspective of gender as warring factions. Rather than convey hope, the film's cynical ending suggests that equality is impossible and oppression inevitable. Young audiences deserve more uplifting role models than manipulative Barbies gleefully subjugating Kens. Unfortunately, the film's relativistic message implies that mistreatment of others is acceptable if your group was wronged in the past. Children deserve stories that inspire more nuanced perspectives, positive role models that embody cooperation, compassion, and human dignity could have provided an uplifting counterpoint. But the film lacks any moderate voices to balance its exaggerated gender polarization. The film misses opportunities to acknowledge that rigid expectations imposed by society create suffering across genders. Instead, it isolates the female experience as uniquely oppressive. A more balanced portrayal could have built empathy by showing our shared struggles, and the film's abundant adult references feel highly incongruous given Barbie's core appeal to young girls. With its bland characterization and superficial messaging, the movie feels forgettable rather than timeless. It had a chance to tap into the magic that has captivated children's imaginations for decades. Unfortunately, it lacks the depth and care required to honor this iconic cultural symbol in a satisfying way. Despite its talented cast and eye-catching aesthetic, the new Barbie film fails to live up to its promise. Rather than tap into the nostalgia and wisdom of an iconic toy, it delivers a superficial story, devoid of substance. This plastic tale feels hollow at its core, marooning its audience in boredom and casting any enthusiasm adrift.